For as long that I can remember, I have always been attached and love disaster movies. It's one of those things that over the years it's just kind of grown because of this guilty pleasure that I have of watching 8 billion people now, I guess, die just right in front of me at the exact same time. And no, I'm not insane. This is something that a lot of other people like it too. And probably because you clicked on this video because you like them too, maybe, or maybe not, and you're just interested in to see my take on it. There's a weird intrigue when it comes to guilty pleasures. And since everybody in the entire world is different, people have their own guilty pleasures. And I want to talk about one of mine, which is disaster movies, and see that maybe that you can understand why I like them, or if you're already a fan of them, maybe you can just relive some of these experiences with me. Why not? I would first love to say some of my favorite disaster movies first, and then I can get on to explaining why these specific movies tie in together to make this guilty pleasure of mine and many other people's guilty pleasures. Starting off with one that got nominated for Best Picture, Don't Look Up. Now, if we're excluding the political topics of this entire movie, because I don't want to get into that and have a war in the comments, but this movie is, very, very good. The way you get to see the main character kind of stumble into his madness because of the incoming asteroid that's bigger than the one that killed the dinosaurs is just kind of really masterful writing. But I know absolutely none of you are here to watch me talk movie critic stuff, so let's just get into the actual disaster of this movie. And obviously this is going to have spoilers for the movie if you haven't seen it or still want to see it. When the asteroid finally hits Earth, this was probably one of the most groundbreaking, literally, moments in all of disaster movie history. This is one of the first times that I actually felt bad for all 8 billion people on Earth dying, which is a new feeling from every single other disaster movie that I've seen. The movie really tackles more of the human problems compared to the asteroid problems, but it still kind of integrates that too. Still speaking non-politically, the descent into madness from the beginning of this movie to the end really makes the asteroid impact more, if you get what I mean. But oh man, the destruction, it's just absolutely insane. Especially when they do the shots from space and you just see the asteroid just completely demolish everything in its path. It's just absolutely amazing. It's truly a visual beauty. And the fact that in the end it shows different perspectives of the asteroid hitting is just absolutely kind of heartbreaking, honestly. But at the same time, really cool. This is the only disaster movie that I have cried at. And when I admit that I cry at something, it definitely says something about the movie, because I personally think that when you cry at something, you should probably address that because it shows how deep the movie has made you feel. And that's exactly what Don't Look Up did. This is definitely a controversial movie because of the political topics in this movie, but it's also a really good disaster movie on its own if you remove the political aspects of it. And actually pretty funny too. The next movie I want to talk about is something that I literally just cannot get out of my head, and that's Godzilla -1. I've made 2 videos about this and just kind of want to keep making more, but it would basically be me remaking my videos. So I thought this was a good excuse to talk about it at least one more time. Godzilla is a masterclass in film writing and also using a budget correctly. But let's get on to the actual destruction elements, the disaster part of it. I specifically want to use the part in Godzilla -1 where Godzilla is in Ginza. Let's talk about the disaster that happens in the city, because oh my god, it made my jaw drop. Skipping ahead into the atomic breath part of the sequence, because I think that's the most important part of it, Godzilla -1 successfully builds suspense with the atomic breath sequence. After all the destruction that Godzilla has already did to this entire city, and then all of a sudden he starts getting hit back, he starts to power up his atomic breath, and by doing this, he basically, for each spike on his dorsal fin, one of them jolts out with a neon blue color. And it starts off really, really slow, and then all of a sudden it builds up to his atomic breath where he sucks it all in. For an example of a disaster movie that doesn't build suspense on its impact scene is the movie Greenland. In the beginning of the movie, an asteroid was supposed to hit somewhere in the ocean, but it accidentally hits straight into LA. They don't really build up any suspense for this at all, other than the fact that that this asteroid didn't just disappear off their radar when it doesn't hit the ocean, and that it definitely hit somewhere else. LA is just some random pick where this asteroid could have hit, but it could have been anywhere. It doesn't build suspense whatsoever, and just kind of shows you the damage of LA just being completely engulfed in flames. Whereas Godzilla really builds up the atomic breath sequence because earlier in the movie, he blows up an entire like military boat by using his atomic breath, but you don't actually see the atomic breath shoot out of his mouth. It's just all the water glows, then it stops, and then the boat explodes. But this does something even better and still makes the idea of the atomic breath like new to us because you see every single individual spike jolt out of his dorsal fin with this neon glow, and then all of a sudden all of them are activated, and he sucks in all this air, and then all the dorsal fins shoot right back into his back, and then he blasts this atomic ray. Starting of the initial destruction of the atomic ray, this atomic ray just kind of like plows through anything in its path. You can see buildings flying off to the side because of how powerful that is. It's basically like watching Lego bricks fly up and down, but these are real buildings. And to top it off, as soon as the atomic ray hits the ocean, an entire nuclear blast starts, which basically plows through even more, devastating absolutely anything in its path. The people just watching it happen are still alive, but the director did the absolutely impossible and made it look like these people's souls have already left their body before they're even dead. It's absolutely a stunning scene. And I feel bad, honestly, a little bit, but at the same time, it's like the coolest scene of the entire movie, and I kind of like it more and enjoy watching it more than actually like feeling bad about the characters. I mean, I obviously gasped when Noriko pushed Koichi out of the way when the full blast was coming towards them. But taking it away from the human elements of this thing and just seeing the absolute devastation that this entire blast does, like this specific blast. I mean, Godzilla was trampling just like multiple people and buildings and knocking them down like initially, but this blast like triples down, maybe even quadruples down on anything that he had done and just completely blows this entire city away. Literally, Koichi is like barely alive when he's pushed into that alleyway. And he is just being thrown around by this blast. And I mean, I can definitely keep going on about Godzilla Minus One, but I feel like I've talked about it for a long, long time. So I'm going to move on to the next category. And the reason why I say category is because, like, seriously, Roland Emmerich movies are like its own category of other stuff. Like, he even directed a Godzilla movie. His genre of disaster movies are just like completely different than anything else I see. When I see a Roland Emmerich film, I know it's a Roland Emmerich film. There's absolutely no way that it's not Roland Emmerich when I see these movies. Like something as ridiculous as like 2012 or Moonfall. I haven't actually seen 2012 all the way through, but I've seen all the scenes, like the big scenes where everything bad is happening, and I gotta say it's really cool. But I mainly want to talk about Moonfall. I went to go see this movie with my dad in this completely empty theater, and I turned my brain off for the entirety of it, and I gotta say, it's so good. It's amazing how good it is. Like, it's so bad that it's good. It's amazing how bad it is because it's so good. And I mean, if I turned on my brain for just a second, I'm sure that this movie would have been awful, because honestly, just like out of context, this movie is completely garbage. But the charm of seeing the moon, kind of like, with these absolutely incredible visuals, I must say, of the moon circling around Earth getting closer and closer, is just so ridiculous how, like, someone would have thought this up. But, you know, Roland Emmerich thought it up, so thank you for that. If we're talking about the destruction of this movie, I mean, the world doesn't end in the end, spoiler alert, but, like, it's practically over for every single person left on Earth. Like, the way the Chrysler building is, like, just in this random place, like, it's been thrown this far because of the gravitational pull of the moon. It's just insane. Like, you see different views of the Earth, and you can see how, like, asteroids are raining down onto it. You get to actually go down to Earth and see this, like, wave come in and, like, knock away these helicopters and stuff like that. You see an entire, like, cities being just, like, completely decimated by this moon and stuff like that. It's really visually beautiful, and it's just like, it brings a smile to my face. It brings me complete joy. It brings me so much joy to watch movies like this. And same goes for 2012 and like basically any other Roland Emmerich films. He really doesn't shy away from just kind of like ending the entire world, bringing out the biggest stakes possible for any of these, and he completely does it correctly. But at the same time, it's not really a good movie. It's basically more of just turn off your brain and you're going to have the best time of your life type of movie. Now, Wrapping this all up and connecting all these together for people that don't understand this guilty pleasure of watching disaster movies, it's practically like saying that you just don't like a genre or you do like a genre. When you like a genre, not everyone is going to like that specific one that you like. They're going to have their own opinions. That's why I can have my own opinion about Shin Godzilla. But the pure joy of disaster movies stems from, in my personal opinion, and I think this is probably the correct answer for a lot of people, is just how ridiculous they are sometimes. All the clever ways that filmmakers are able to make these disasters like level 11 out of 10 type of disasters is something that just, I think, draws people who like disaster movies in. When a movie just doesn't have that appeal to it, when the disaster is just too small, it just makes the movie feel small, no matter the budget. But something like Godzilla Minus One proves that a budget does not matter as long as people behind it are actually have passion for this movie. Roland Emmerich, too, definitely has a lot of passion in his disaster movies, and credit to him, because even though that Moonfall is just not a great movie critically, it is an absolute blast to watch. The ridiculous ways of 8 billion people dying all at once is something that just draws people in, and the big mass destruction of these things, too, is something that people are drawn in by. Take, for example, the moon falling to Earth, or Godzilla erupting this blast that completely decimates anything in his path, or even just a regular asteroid coming down to smash Earth into little bits of pieces. If it's big, loud, and ridiculous, it's what disaster movie enthusiasts such as myself like to see out of these movies. The more chaos, the better. Thank you for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed. Bye.